Hello, playful eco warriors, and welcome to another episode of Climate for Fun, the podcast that turns climate change into a laughing matter. Here's Antonio Salituri, your host, and I'm thrilled to have Josh Dorfman with me today. Josh is a climate entrepreneur. Welcome, Josh, and thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you. It is just a pleasure, absolutely, to be here with you.
And ready to laugh at climate change as much as we can.
I'm ready if you're ready, man. Let's go for it.
Let's crack on then. Okay, we'll try. Okay, so Josh, you are the brain behind the Lazy Environmentalist, right? So how did you come up with it? Were you just fed up with recycling or what?
Well, I didn't actually really come up with it. The way that it came about was I had started a modern design, sustainable furniture company about 20 years ago in 2004. And I was moving that company to Brooklyn to get around some of the best designers at the time in the world doing this sustainable, eco-friendly design, recycled materials, you name it. It's really cool. And my first employee on her last day working with me wasn't making the move. And so we made a deal. And the deal was if she would pack up our office in Washington, D.C. and drive with me up to New York to this new apartment I was moving to in Brooklyn, I'd give her the van of the company as a parting gift because now I was going to be in New York City. I didn't really need the van. She did it. We're on the New Jersey Turnpike. We're on the highway. It's about 10:30 at night. And this woman, Lucy, is like seemingly hyperventilating in the passenger seat. I don't know what's wrong, but she seems very distraught. And so I said to her, Lucy, are you okay? Is everything okay? And she said, look, Josh, I need to ask you something. I need to get this off my chest. I couldn't ask you when you were my boss, but you're not my boss anymore, right? So I really need to know something. I thought, oh my God, she's attracted to me. This is crazy, right? And so I said, it's okay. You can tell me anything. So she said, look, Josh, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but are you really an environmentalist? I mean, you're selling all this eco-friendly stuff, but you're always in the shower. You barely recycle. You don't act like an environmentalist. You don't talk like you're like the worst environmentalist I've ever met. And so there was a lot of truth in that. And so I wrote a blog entry the next day about myself calling it the Lazy Environmentalist. So it was really Lucy who came up with the idea. And I said, look, it's true. I care about the planet. I take long showers. I need a great low flow shower head. I'll buy it. I want an Audi TT convertible. I'll get electric, biodiesel, whatever, if I can afford it. It's what, right? I care. I'm lazy. I'm a lazy environmentalist. And I think there's millions more people like me out there. So make it
I
easy
believe
for them.
So
So it's Lucy really who came up with the
So
concept more
let's
than
say
I did.
thanks to Lucy. We say hello to Lucy. Yeah. You did you pay copyright to her again for that? Well,
I was giving a talk years later and somehow she came across it and she reached out. She said, I had no idea that this, influenced you. I said, Lucy, you changed my life in more ways than you even understand. So thank you.
that's great. That's great. Phenomenal. That's great. Yeah. Well, sometimes you need help others to tell you what you do or how to call what you do. Anyway, well, connecting to that, you turned The Lazy Environmentalist into an award-winning TV series. Not bad for a lazy tree hugger. I mean, no, seriously. I mean, how did you do it? How did it happen?
It was, so much of it, I would say, just like many things in life, was timing. I was So I'm here in New York. Somebody reads that blog entry, a radio producer for a tiny little internet show, reads that blog entry and calls me up and he said, hey, I read your blog. I said, what? How could you possibly find my blog? He said, this is an interesting concept. Let's turn this into a radio show. I said, great. He said, you're going to pay for it. And I said, not so great, but okay, let's give it a shot. It's all, so I soundproofed my closet in my apartment in Brooklyn, and I would go into my closet and I would call into the radio show, and my guest would call in. And when I say right place, right time, I eventually was introduced to someone in New York City at Sirius XM, North American Radio Broadcasting Network. They liked the show. I tested. I went to Sirius, and then in 2006, it was right around that timing. Al Gore's movie *An Inconvenient Truth* came out, and when that movie came out, it changed so much in America where the media wanted to start telling the story about the environment. But how does the American media tell the story about an environment? They start thinking about consumer products and what can consumers do and what can people do? Well, I
Yeah.
had a company selling that stuff, and I had a radio show talking to all the people making that stuff. And it was great. I was right in the middle of a very exciting trend as it was kind of taking root and eventually became a pretty cool TV show.
Oh, yeah, well, Al Gore movie actually, it was a game changer, I guess, in a way. So that's you remind me that a great piece. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool story. So well, coming to another aspect of your story. So you also founded Planted, right? It's a company which makes grass-based panels for building carbon negative houses in the US, which sounds amazing. But are they raccoon proof? I was wondering, like.
Are they raccoon proof? We haven't done that test. We haven't brought raccoons into our lab, but we probably need to, Antonio. That's someone I'm sure people ask about termites, but
Yeah,
and
okay.
we have an answer for termites, but we haven't tested further along, other rodents
I'm
to
I'm
see.
your new quality inspector nightmare, like
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
because
It
I,
does
I
grow in the
believe that
wild. Yeah.
yeah, raccoons are pretty common over there, yeah.
They're way too common. We actually had one
Yeah.
on our porch the other night eating our cat's food. And so yes, they are,
They,
they
they
made
don't
their way through
smell
the
us.
grass. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They don't smell the panels and say, there's something good in there. Like,
This is delicious. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got raccoons, we've got golfers showing up. They're like, "Oh, we like this is nice grass, This is what is this? Some sort of like Kentucky bluegrass." Uh no, the panel that when we started that concept, when we started Planted, the idea was could we find some biomass that grows much faster than trees. We were thinking carbon removal, right? If we can grow something faster, pure photosynthesis, we're going to take more carbon out of the atmosphere.
yeah,
And our starting point, we didn't know. Our hypothesis was maybe we'll start with hemp. Maybe hemp's a good way to
yeah.
go. And so, of course, you get a million jokes. You're making these boards for walls and roofs, and everyone, oh, well, what happens if it gets caught on fire? What's good? Is everyone in the house only having a party? If burning the hemp. So, that we addressed a lot of that. It was really fascinating, and how we got to the grass eventually through a lot of experimentation, I would say, to find something that you could
Right.
was really structural, grew extremely fast, had the right properties where we can, the grass we grow, think of it like bamboo. I mean, it's not bamboo. It's thinner, which is really important because so then we can mechanically harvest it. You can't mechanically harvest bamboo. That's why it's these huge plantations, mostly in Asia. Um,
Yeah.
and we can then we've built machines to slice it extremely thin, so we get this very strong fiber, and we can press a lot of that fiber together with just a little bit of resin and get to a panel like a plywood, or in this country we use something called oriented strand board, which is competes with plywood. It's incredibly strong, it's incredibly durable, and yes, it's made from grass.
Oh, so I mean, because I thought as well, like it was either hemp or bamboo, which is the two common type of biomass you use in this case, right? And then when you say grass, I say, well, grass? What the hell? I mean, just grass. I mean, by the way, where did you get it, if I may ask? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so like I said, so when we started this 4 years ago, we started working on Planted, and we is me and two former engineers from SpaceX that were making rocket ships, and they were very interested in the concept of also removing carbon from the atmosphere. I was very interested in materials because I was working on another furniture company and I wanted something more sustainable, and we came up with this idea. So we were testing anything we could get our hands on, waste rice husks, waste corn stovers, similar, like what might have the structural properties. And we got a sample in the mail of this stock. We didn't know exactly what it was, but the SpaceX guys, they ripped it apart, pressed it into a little tiny sample, maybe
yeah,
5 inches by 5 inches, very small, but just to
yeah,
see. And it was great. We didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and we're asking experts, we're asking professors, what is this? What is this? We finally find someone who tells us what it is or what they think it is. And so I call up the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. We started this company in North Carolina and said I'm looking for, this grass. And I got a call back very quickly uh, from this guy I got to know very well, Sam Brake. And he said, well, we had a lot of it. We had a lot of it. We were looking at it to potentially use for biofuels, for
Yeah.
ethanol instead of
Okay.
corn. Because it grows so fast, right? And you don't actually need to put a lot of fertilizer on it, no insecticides. Um, it's just very natural and it grows so quickly and
Organic.
it's good with extreme weather. Nothing can really kill it. But the project failed. And so, we took it all out. And so my emotions on this call are going up, and we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
it.
yeah.
We got rid of it. We have it. He said, but I said to the boys, just leave a little bit. Maybe someday someone will call. And then he said to me, and Josh, I believe this is that call. And I was saying, Sam, this is that call. I promise you, this is that call. And so he was great. So it was, yeah, through the North Carolina Department of Agriculture that we found this product and really got our
That's
start.
great. Good collaboration, with university as well. Cool. Um, okay, cool. So, changing a bit topic, like, so you were the national spokesperson for Brita's Filter for Good campaign, which basically aim to reduce bottled water waste, right? So the slogan, I love the slogan, was "Hydrate responsibly," right? But I couldn't help, but it made me think of a guy getting drunk on microplastic. Is it what you did?
It's a good question. Yes, that's what we. We. So yeah. So Brita, of course, the water pitcher company, came up with this
Yeah,
concept again, back around 2007, 2008, and so I did. I became their spokesperson, and it was a lot of fun. So the
yeah,
thought was, well, if you use a Brita and you're not using plastic disposable water bottles, you save money. You don't use all that plastic. And
yeah.
I did a lot of things. I did a lot of things. There was some fun TV appearances. I introduced some, pretty famous bands at some concerts for Brita. But I also went on this bicycle ride. It was called the Brita Climate Ride. It was a 5-day ride from New York City
Right.
to Washington, D.C. to raise awareness.
Wow,
And I'm not a cyclist, but I actually had no choice because I was under contract, and they said, "Oh, we'll get you a bike." They got me a nice
wow.
specialized
Okay.
bike, which was wasted on me, but nonetheless, I had this very nice bike. And I remember we were biking through Pennsylvania. There's about 80 riders on the ride, and it's beautiful. It's morning, it's fall, it's gorgeous. And we get to this restaurant where we're having breakfast. Everybody's already way ahead of me, so that like the trailer van or whatever is kind of riding along with me.
Yeah.
I pull in and people cheer because I finally showed up, like a little bit, I think, sarcastic. Oh, this guy finally made it.
Yeah.
And they cheer, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like waving my hands, and I'm just starting going slower and slower and slower. And I hadn't really learned how to click in and click out of my cleat into the
Oh.
bike. And so I'm going so slow, and now I can't get my foot out, and I just collapsed over on my side. And I'm still stuck in the bike in the parking lot. And these two young women who are on the ride, they're walking by and they're looking down at me, and one just says to the other, "Oh, that's just embarrassing." I was like, good, I'm good, go climb it, all good, all good. So yeah.
Oh wow. Well, we can't say you didn't, make the best efforts, like for the climate. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you got stuck to the pedal basically. You
I
couldn't
got stuck to
unclip
the
the
pedal. I couldn't get it out,
Oh.
right? And I just tipped. It was very sad. Yeah, it really was embarrassing.
Sorry. It's
Yeah.
just so funny.
Yeah.
Still after all so many millennia, the funniest thing is still a man falling down.
Right? Yeah. That's right. It just except for the man. But for everybody else, it's a good time. But that's
Yeah, of
okay.
course, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, I guess you drank a lot of water during that ride, right?
We hydrate like crazy. Are you kidding me? We're
Yeah.
constantly. Yeah, you got you it's very hard to ride while you're carrying a pitcher in one hand. You got your water bottle. You're trying to, keep up 20 miles per hour or kilometers. It's tricky. It's tricky to stay
So,
hydrated like that.
well, I bet. Yeah, I'm not a cyclist either. Just imagine it. Oh God, it makes me feel sick. But anyway, so basically, I propose an upgraded slogan, right? A bit longer. So hydrate responsibly, ride irresponsibly. Like how responsible?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Drink responsibly, ride irresponsibly. Yes. Great climate ride. I don't know. I don't know. I have to can propose it for the next one, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's good. It's good heads up, for the next
Yeah,
cyclist.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so well, we'll come to your last creation, which is super cool. I mean, it's called super cool because basically you're promoting super large scale solutions to cool the planet. Yeah, to put it like that. One of these, you anticipated me. So there is a Swedish company who made trash disappear from cities. So again, this sounds too good to be true to me. So is it not any like in that Simpson episode? I don't know if you remember where trash is coming out of the ground, right? Is it something like that?
It's something like that. Yeah, exactly, except in reverse, right? So they have these giant vacuum tubes underneath
Okay.
the roads that sucks the trash down below the city.
Right.
That
That's
actually
great.
is that actually is pretty similar to what they do. Yeah, it's this company called NVAC, ENVAC,
Yeah.
Swedish company.
Yeah.
They invented this in the
Okay.
1950s, I want to say. It's like,
Wow.
do you remember the show like the Jetsons, this futuristic cartoon? Did you ever see? It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they invented this thing, you know, yeah, like over half a century ago. It's finally catching on. The future was built a long time ago. And what they did was they invented a way to take trash and yeah, you basically instead of putting in a trash can and a garbage truck has to come along, then you get all that diesel emissions and air pollution and noise and
Yeah.
you know
Biogas.
they literally just put tubes underneath the garbage cans and they suck the garbage down below into this network of tubes that shoots it out of a city to a collection point. And by doing that, you keep cities clean. You eliminate all those diesel fumes, all those climate emissions. So they say they can cut carbon by about 90%. And you enhance quality of life, right? You build a more modern living atmosphere. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah, of
this to
course.
me, I'm glad you asked about that one because to me that is the definition of super cool, right? How do you come up with something that cleans the environment, cuts carbon emissions, and improves quality of life in the process so that it's almost impossible to say no? Why, how could you say no to that? You
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's it's the American dream. Let's say, well, it's everyone's dream, right? Because I'm dealing with a lot of recycling nowadays, right? So I'm trying to teach people how to recycle better, even in a sort of funny way. But still, I mean, people get mad at recycling. They can't be bothered, especially, well, adults, right? Older people, like, they can't be bothered. And, if someone managed to do that, I mean, in Italy as well, like, but probably in small villages as well, that would be wow,
I mean, and
amazing.
Antonio, it's in to me, it's worse than that because when you look at the statistics for, I think it was the OECD, the Organization of Economically
Yeah,
something
yeah.
developed countries, right? OECD,
Hmm.
9% of plastic globally gets recycled, 4.5% in the United States.
Yeah,
So you got
yeah,
all these people who are actually throwing their recyclables in the recyclable bin thinking it's going to get recycled, and
yeah,
yet it still finds its way to a landfill. So the problem
yeah,
is way more severe than I think
yeah,
even most of us really understand. We think we're doing the right thing, and still the infrastructure doesn't exist to recycle it. And
yeah,
so that's why I mean, in this particular case, what NVAC does is remarkable. If you go to probably almost any city, modern city in the Middle East today, they probably have NVAC. But you go to Beijing, you go to Singapore, you go to Mecca. If you go to
yeah. Oh,
Mecca, right,
yeah.
and you're going direct,
Cool.
there's I think 26 kilometers of these pneumatic vacuum tubes underneath the city, No
Wow.
one who's ever there on a pilgrimage ever sees a garbage truck. And Disney
Wow.
World. You can go to Mecca or you can go to Disney World. Mickey Mouse never sees one either. And so it
He likes to be
exists.
clean, yeah. Well, fair enough. That's that, for Mickey Mouse is important, yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, another reason to go to Disneyland, I'm gonna take my
Yeah.
nephews one day there over there. That's good. I've never been myself, but that's good. That's great. I mean, honestly, is there anything else you want to share in particular about Supercool? Or feel free to shout.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, so super cool. That's, we run a podcast, we run a newsletter, and we're
Okay.
bringing on not just companies, but we do bring, like we did bring on the CEO of NBAC. We bring on, um, a whole we bring on policymakers, we bring on mayors. What I'm most interested in are these solutions that exist in the world today that are at commercial scale, that cut carbon, that improve profits and also increase our quality of life. And we did an episode in the last fall, probably 4 or 5 months ago. I read about these cities in America that were 3 times better than their peers at getting bike lanes built. And in America, it's hard, right? We are the very much a car culture, as most
Yeah.
people
Oh
know.
yeah.
And even if you want bike lanes, it's just even if they're approved, even if there's the budget, they're still hard to get. They're still, to get them done. It takes decades. And so this guy figured out how to do it, and he got it done. And they did an experiment. They said, how many bike lanes can we build in 5 cities in 24 months? And it was from New Orleans, big festival party city, to
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, very different kind of city, to
Okay.
Denver, to Austin, Texas, to Providence, Rhode Island, a geographic spectrum, cities of different sizes. And he did it. And they got 300 something miles of bike lanes built. And so we got him on the show. I said, Kyle, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And
What
he said,
makes yeah.
well, he said, we did a lot of different things, but one of the things we learned was that there's no reason to go try to convince people who ride bikes to get more bike lanes. They want them. You don't spend any time talking to those people. Like, they're already with you. What you have
Yeah.
to do is you have to go convince the people who will never be in those bike lanes, the car drivers, that they want them too. And I said, yeah, okay, that sounds good. How do you do that? And he said, well, we experiment with a lot of things. And what we found, really what worked, was an appeal to their youth, to nostalgia, to an earlier time when streets were slower. People could be outside talking, knowing their neighbors, right? There was
All
a
right.
quality of life was better, or people perceived it to be better. And that's a time when roads were shared, when there was room for bike lanes, room for cars. He's like, and we
Okay.
positioned these things. And we got car drivers to be supportive. And if you get the car drivers to be supportive, then you clear the resistance, you clear the
Yeah.
friction, and it goes forward. Other things too. But I just love that. So we do look at cool companies, we look at cool technologies, we look at cool policies, and these innovations that aren't obvious, like what Kyle knew, but really matter if you're going to create the world that we're all hoping to create, that you solve climate change, but you don't solve climate change so you don't die. You solve climate change so you actually make life better in the process. That's what's super cool. That's what we're trying to get at.
Okay, that's great. I mean, something that is good obviously for the planet, but for the community as well. Like, that has an impact on the smaller and bigger community, let's say. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's
And
cool.
if I say that to you, or to, my relatives who don't care about saving the planet, unfortunately, that, they not that they're not nice people, but it's not their priority. And I tell them
Yeah.
something like this, and they're like, "Oh, that's super cool." And I'm like, "There you go. That's why that's the name of the show, right?" Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to entice them a little bit, like, and make climate change sounds cool. That's the challenge. Yeah. Well, sorry. I rephrase that. Makes climate action sounds cool, let's say.
You're right, exactly. And
Yeah.
and I know it's not easy. You have to get very
No,
creative, right?
no, not at all.
Yeah, you just have so this is how we're attempting to do it, and it's a business conversation. And so what we're also trying to do for decision makers is help them understand that hey, here's all these like cool technologies, here's these cool approaches that are they're really de-risked. They really work. Someone else has already done it. It's way less risky for you to bring it to your boss now and suggest something because here's the case study, right? Here's the evidence. That's really important to us for Supercool too, to make sure that we're, whether it's in the newsletter or on the podcast, that
Yeah,
it's kind of like a mini case study, right? Like, oh, okay,
yeah,
here's how this, right? And then it's easier for people to get behind it and for those ideas to spread.
yeah. I'm always on the lookout for super cool climate solutions, so I'll probably shout some of them towards your way. And by the way,
Brilliant, please.
top of my mind, there is a guy who's doing a very cool thing. One of the things I stuck in my mind most, um, a guy in Sardinia, right? So you know Sardinia, the one of the
I
island
do.
in Italy.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, he made, I don't know what stage is at the moment, but he made basically a battery, so like a energy storage, basically through CO2. So like using CO2 as a gas, like expansion and contraction of the gas is managing to store and energy. I'll share some links with you, but that's
Please.
great because
Yeah.
at the same time you capture CO2, you don't release CO2, and then you use it as a storage media, basically. Anyway, I'll give you some more details after this call, perhaps.
Please. That sounds great. I'd love to hear about that.
Okay, cool. So, well, we can move to a bit more fun part of the podcast. Not that it's not been fun so far. I mean, obviously, thanks so far. And have you got any joke at all in mind about climate change, climate action, all the climate solution you've been encountering? Anything related to the climate space, that can sound funny or sounds funny to you at least, because that's the first rule. Yeah, it has to be funny to you.
Yes, well, what springs to mind is the I don't know if you know who Larry David is. Larry David helped create the TV show Seinfeld. He had his own TV show here in
I
America.
heard, I
Anyways,
heard it. Their
he's
name rings a bell.
he's
Yeah.
yeah. So someone was asking him, this was a few years ago, what can we do? It's Earth Day. What can we do to save the planet? And so Larry David, he's bald, and he says, here's what you can do. He's like, first of all, he's like everybody wants to take they tell you take a shorter shower. Well, okay, yeah, maybe take a short shower. But he's like, what you really need to do is need to shave your head. He's like, all you hair people, shame on you, right? You got to wash your hair. You're using shampoo. You got the plastic in the
There you go.
bottle, right? There you go, Antonio. Yeah, there you go. He's right. So,
I'm
and I
saving a
remember
lot.
he was like, all you hair people, shame on you. You're not doing your part for the planet. And so that always stayed with me. Like you hair people, not doing your, you gotta do more. You got to shave your head to save the planet. And I always felt
Fair
that
enough.
that was yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Does that
No,
qualify? Is that okay?
I would say if you allow me shave on you,
Sh-
if
Oh, yes,
there you
yes.
go. There you go. It's
There you
fun.
go. You just nailed the punch. You just nailed the
You
punchline. That's
you can
it.
use it.
Yeah,
You can use it if you want. I give it to you.
yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Well, I'll always try to make a bit more fun. Okay, well, let's go to the quiz then. Yeah, if you're ready to. Are you ready to test yourself? I
Woo.
call it who wants to be climate aware.
Okay. I don't
Okay.
know who is that. Is that the first question
Well,
or is it?
who
Oh,
wants to be millionaire? You know
oh yeah.
the quiz
Okay.
called.
Got
Well,
it.
that's my
Got it.
version. Who wants to be climate aware?
Climate aware. Okay. Yeah.
But there's no money involved.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the budget is tight, so
I mean, isn't this the story of the environment? This just is it's
yeah.
as old as the
I
movement.
I'm the cheap environmentalist. Yeah.
Should say hello to my wife. You guys would have a lot in common.
Fair enough. Okay, so right, just to recap, three questions. For each questions, you have three options, right?
Okay.
Does it clear? Is it clear? Yeah.
3 questions, 3 options. I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So, first question. One house using planted panels locks 8 tons of CO2, as you know. But what is the storage capacity equal to? Option A, recycling 600 bags of trash. Option B, throwing 600 bags of trash onto Donald Trump. Option C, burying 600 bags of trash under Josh Dorfman house.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go with, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with A, and I'll tell you why. Because that seems to me to be it requires the least amount of of energy, maybe embodied carbon energy in the process. So I'm going to say maybe A, since it's the least energy to do, is the answer.
I think your reasoning was spot on and you guessed right, yeah.
All right, one for
Okay,
one.
well done. Good start, good start. So, second question. Who referred to climate science as weird science? Option A, Josh Doffman after eating too much grass. Or option B, Josh Doffman after drinking too many microplastics. Or option C, JD Vance.
Oh, well, let's see. Um, I think JD Vance, I don't know. He was probably passed out on his couch. So I don't know if he was if he was reading any kind of science. But if it's weird science, I'm kind of thinking it's either me or maybe Anthony Michael Hall. I'm thinking, or maybe Gina Davis. I'm trying to think. You with the weird science is bringing back all these memories from my childhood,
There's
and
too many
yeah,
options, yeah.
there's too many options. There's too many options, but if it's, I'm gonna have to say B. It's Josh Dorfman after drinking too many microplastics.
Yeah, that's the funniest one, but unfortunately, it's JD Vance.
Oh man! All right, rats. I didn't get that one.
Well, not too bad either. You got close. You were close. Okay, last one, right? Okay. So, what does someone with a carbon tunnel vision do? So, what does someone with a carbon tunnel vision do? Option A, drill, baby, drill. Option D, focus only on reducing carbon emissions while ignoring other environmental and social issues. Option C, see the light at the end of the tunnel despite Donald Trump.
Carbon tunnel vision. Okay, geez. Hmm. Drill, baby, drill. That I feel like this might be. I feel like this might be a trick question. I feel like maybe
Well,
there's a,
perhaps.
yeah, this carbon
I
tunnel
can't tell.
vision. I'm gonna have to just lean into my optimism here, and I'm gonna have to go with C. I'm gonna have to go. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. You
I
know.
mean, that's my favorite answer, I must admit, but it's not the correct one.
Oh
It's the B.
no!
It's the B.
It's the B. So wait, hold on. What
Yeah.
was B again? What was B?
So B is the focus only on reducing carbon emissions while
Oh,
ignoring other environmental and social issues.
yes,
Fair
yes,
enough. Fair enough. Well,
yes.
that was a tough one. That was a tough quiz. But you done your best. I think you done super cool performance.
I gave it my laziest effort. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you go. That's a quiz for lazy environmentalists. I agree.
Yeah.
Right, that's the end of this Climate for Fun episode. Josh, thank you so much for your fun contribution.
Oh, just a thrill. That was a lot of fun. Thank you, Antonio. I appreciate it.
Thanks to you. And of course, thanks to whoever tuned in today. Next episode will be in a month as usual. In the meantime, remember to fight climate change one laugh at a time. Ciao.